She thought she had sealed my fate in the cold, dank depths of our basement, a tomb of forgotten memories and chilling silence. My son's wife, a woman I had welcomed into my heart and home, saw me not as a mother-in-law, but as a fragile, old obstacle standing between her and a fortune. The inheritance from my late husband, Robert, was more than just a beautiful old Victorian home in Beacon Hill, Boston. It was a living monument to his life, a testament to a love that was to outlast his earthly life. But for Sarah, it was a prize to be seized, and she meticulously planned my disappearance. Her greed, a cold and calculating force, left no room for the warmth of family or the bond we were meant to share. The brutal New England winter storm outside held a symphony of nature's fury, a perfect backdrop for the quiet cruelty happening within. Lured into the unheated basement under the guise of helping her find some lost photos, I walked blindly into a trap of her own design. The heavy oak door, a sturdy sentinel of our home for generations, slammed shut behind me with a final, echoing thud that reverberated through the very core of my being. The sound was not just a door closing, it was a period at the end of a sentence, a full stop on my life as I knew it. A sentence written by a woman who had once called me Mom, now condemning me to a slow, freezing end. In that moment, as the initial shock gave way to a crippling terror, and the cold began to seep into my bones, a different kind of strength began to rise within me. It wasn't the strength of youth or physical power, but the quiet, unwavering power of a faith that had been my constant companion through all of life's seasons. I felt a profound sense of helplessness, but even as my body started to betray me, my spirit held firm. I didn't beg for my life. I simply offered it back to God. I prayed not for a rescue, but for understanding, for justice, and for a way to reveal the truth that was unfolding in the dark. I had no idea that my quiet prayer had set in motion a divine plan, a cosmic reckoning that would not only save me from certain death, but would turn their entire world upside down. My son, David, a man who had always been a quiet shadow to his wife's forceful personality, seemed to agree with her on every point, a silent accomplice in my downfall. But what they didn't realize was that their greed, their single-minded pursuit of a fortune, had blinded them to a profound truth. A mother's vow and a divine plan were far more powerful than any earthly scheme. The very act of their betrayal had set in motion a chain of events that would unravel their meticulously planned crime, leaving them stripped of everything they had sought to steal. I, the intended victim, would not only survive, but would rise with a quiet, humbling power to become their only hope, their final judge, and the one person they would one day be forced to beg for help. This is a story of divine justice, of how a mother's prayer can become a powerful weapon, and how true victory is found not in revenge, but in a quiet, humbling power. My story isn't one of wealth or grand gestures, but of a quiet life that was violently interrupted by the very people I trusted most. This is a journey from the depths of betrayal to the pinnacle of divine grace, a testament to the power of a mother's faith. Before we continue, make sure you follow our page so you don't miss our next true stories. And if this story resonates with you, please hit that like button, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and let us know where you're watching from in the comments. Your support helps us share these messages with more people who need hope. My name is Margaret, a 78-year-old widow who had lived a quiet, contented life with my husband, Robert. Our life had been a simple tapestry woven with threads of love, laughter, and a profound mutual respect. We had worked hard and lived frugally, but thanks to Robert's brilliance as an engineer and an inventor, we had amassed a modest fortune. It was nothing that would land us on a magazine cover, but it was more than enough to live comfortably for the rest of my days, secure in the knowledge that our future was stable. When he passed, he left me his entire estate, including our beautiful, sprawling Victorian home. This house wasn't just an asset. It was a living monument to our shared history. Every creaking floorboard, every chipped corner, and every faded wallpaper design held a memory of a life well lived, a love that had stood the test of time, and the quiet contentment of a shared existence. My son David and his wife Sarah were always eager to help me manage my affairs after Robert's passing, a kindness I initially appreciated and accepted with an open heart. But as the months went by, their helpfulness began to feel less like a loving gesture and more like a calculated surveillance. Sarah, A woman with a keen eye for expensive things and an insatiable desire for a life she felt she was owed, began to openly covet our home. She would walk through the rooms, her gaze lingering not on the photographs of a happy family, but on the mahogany furniture, the antique clock in the hall, and the intricate, hand-carved molding around the fireplace. She called it a real estate investment, and a fixer-upper with potential. A phrase that, in her mouth, sounded less like a loving critique and more like a prelude to a hostile takeover. My son, David, a man who had always been a quiet shadow to his wife's forceful and often theatrical personality, seemed to agree with her on every point. He would nod along, offering a few mumbled agreements to her pointed observations, a silent accomplice in my downfall. The hints became less subtle and more insistent. Sarah started to drop direct questions, prying into the house's value, the details of the will, and my plans for the future. "Mom," she would say with a brittle smile that didn't reach her cold, calculating eyes, "it's just too much for you to handle. All this upkeep, the repairs, the stairs. You're not getting any younger. You should sell it and move into a nice, modern condo. You'd be so much more comfortable." Her words were wrapped in a false cloak of concern, but their true meaning was clear. They wanted me out. I always refused, telling her that the house was my sanctuary, filled with a lifetime of memories with Robert. But my words fell on deaf ears. Their visits became less about family and more about scouting the property. Sarah meticulously cataloged every piece of furniture, every antique, every item of value in the house. She even had a private conversation with a realtor from Coldwell Banker, a man she introduced to me as a friend, who was just curious about the market. I was naive, blinded by my love for my son, and I had no idea that their greed had turned them into predators, that they were already plotting my end, and that the foundation of a lifetime of trust was about to crumble in a horrifying display of cold-blooded treachery. They had researched the home's value on Zillow, and were already planning a civil lawsuit to contest the will if I didn't cooperate. The betrayal came on the coldest night of the year, a brutal winter storm raging outside. Sarah came to my room with a sad, concerned expression. "Mom," she said, "I'm so sorry, but I dropped a box of your old photos in the basement. I'm afraid to go down there alone. Can you help me?" She knew how much those photos meant to me, and it was a cruel, perfect hook. I didn't hesitate. The basement was a vast, unheated space that stored my husband's old tools and furniture. My son and daughter-in-law, who had no interest in my husband's old things, seemed to suddenly have a keen interest in them. I was walking right into their trap. The old wooden stairs groaned under my weight as I descended into the damp, shadowy space. The air was frigid, the cold seeping into my bones like a poison. "They're over there, Mom," she said, pointing to a dark corner, her voice a little too cheerful. As I bent down to pick up the box, a terrible, sickening realization washed over me. I heard a muffled sound, a click, and the sudden silence of the basement, which had been filled with the noise of the storm, was deafening. I turned, and the door was closed. I pounded on it, yelling Sarah's name, but my words were swallowed by the thick silence. "Sarah!" I screamed, my voice raw with terror. "Please, let me out. It's freezing." I heard her voice, muffled but chillingly clear, from the other side. "Don't worry, Mom," she said, her voice devoid of emotion. "David and I are going to go on a trip. Just for a few days. You'll be fine down there. And when we come back, we'll talk about selling the house." She laughed, a short, bitter sound that sent a shiver down my spine. And then, there was nothing but the sound of the wind, the creaks of the old house, and the chilling cold that was starting to take its toll. The cold, once just a physical sensation, became a psychological torment. I was trapped, abandoned, and utterly alone. My son's wife, a woman I had welcomed into my heart, had betrayed me. I was in the very heart of the home I had loved, and I had been betrayed by the very people I had trusted. My son had allowed his wife to do this to me, to a mother who had loved him with every fiber of her being. Sarah, meanwhile, was already messaging her accomplice on WhatsApp, confirming the asset acquisition. In that moment of absolute despair, I didn't know what to do. I was a prisoner in my own home. My life in the hands of two people who had no regard for me whatsoever. My heart pounded with fear, and I felt a crippling helplessness wash over me. I knelt on the cold concrete floor, my hands trembling with cold and terror, and I started to pray. Not for my immediate release, but for a different kind of miracle. I prayed for a sign, for a way to fight back, for a way to reveal their evil deeds to the world. I prayed for justice, for a divine intervention that would expose their greed and bring them to their knees. I prayed with a passion I had never known before, a fierce, unwavering plea to a higher power. And as I prayed, a strange, profound peace settled over me, a warmth that seemed to emanate from within, chasing away the bone-deep chill. I don't know how long I was down there. The hours bled into one another, a slow, agonizing descent into a bone-deep cold that was more than just physical. It was a creeping spiritual numbness. My breath came in shallow, ragged puffs of mist. My fingers and toes, once so alive with feeling, were now frozen, unresponsive claws. My mind, a once vibrant tapestry of memories, was beginning to unravel at the edges, the colors fading to a hazy, white nothingness. I was ready to give up. I felt my spirit preparing to leave my body, to finally find peace in the quiet oblivion that was now so tempting. It was then, in that moment of near death, that a soft, warm light began to grow around me, a beacon in the darkness. It was a gentle, loving light that seemed to emanate from the very air itself. This was no ordinary light. It pulsed with a life and warmth that made the surrounding cold feel like a distant, forgotten memory. In the shimmering light, a figure slowly materialized. It was a woman, no older than 30, with eyes the color of a summer sky just before dusk, holding a universe of compassion within their depths. Her smile was not merely a curve of the lips, but a radiant beacon that radiated pure, unconditional love. She wore simple, flowing robes that seemed woven from moonlight and mist, and though she had no wings or halo, I knew, with an absolute certainty that transcended logic and reason, that she was an angel. Her presence filled the room not with awe or fear, but with a profound and consuming sense of peace. "Margaret," she spoke, her voice a melody that resonated deep within my soul. "You are not forgotten. Your faith has reached the heavens, and your prayers have been heard." She gently laid a hand on my forehead, and a subtle energy, cool and invigorating, flowed through me, chasing away the lingering haze of the cold. My mind cleared completely, the aches in my body began to recede, and I was filled with a profound and renewed strength, a quiet resilience that felt nothing short of miraculous. "Your son's wife has strayed from the light," she continued, her voice tinged with a deep, cosmic sorrow. "She has succumbed to the illusion of earthly riches. Her actions have set in motion a chain of events that will lead her to a dark place, one she cannot escape." "But I do not wish them harm," I whispered, the words surprising me even as I spoke them. Even in the face of their monstrous betrayal, the deep, abiding love for my son still flickered within me. My heart ached for the boy I had raised, now a stranger manipulated by his wife's greed. The angel's smile widened, a radiant beacon in the dim room. "Your compassion is your greatest strength, Margaret. It is why you were chosen. You will not only survive, but you will become the instrument of their redemption. You have a purpose far greater than merely inheriting wealth." She then revealed to me a miraculous truth, the final piece of the puzzle. My husband, Robert, ever the brilliant inventor and a man who foresaw every possible contingency, had a contingency plan of his own. He had placed a secret codicil in his will, a hidden clause that only I could access. It was a dead man's switch that would only be triggered in the event of my death or permanent incapacitation, a failsafe against any attempt to exploit my inheritance. The codicil, a testament to his foresight and love, stipulated that in the event of my death at the hands of my heirs, the entire estate, including all assets, would be transferred to a charitable foundation, leaving my betrayers with nothing but a mountain of debt. The angel warned me that the act of locking me in the basement, an act of premeditated cruelty, had already triggered the legal proceedings that would lead to their downfall. The angelic visit was not a fantasy. It was a profound spiritual experience, a direct intervention from a higher power, guiding me to my final purpose. With another gentle touch, she faded, leaving behind only the lingering scent of jasmine, and a profound sense of hope that filled every cell of my body. My bedside lamp returned to its normal glow, but the room felt forever changed. I was no longer a victim. I was a chosen survivor, armed with divine guidance and a miraculous purpose. My faith had not just saved me from death. It had given me a new life, a new vision, and a mission to save the very people who had tried to destroy me. I felt a tear, warm against my frozen cheek, a testament to the miraculous change taking place within me. I was not just being rescued. I was being reborn. I was in the hospital for 3 days, recovering from exposure. My body, a fragile vessel that had been on the brink of collapse, was now steadily mending, but the emotional and spiritual scars would last a lifetime. I had been found by Michael, our faithful mail carrier for 20 years, a man whose gentle, routine presence had become a quiet constant in my life. He had noticed my mail piling up and, sensing something was wrong, had called 911. It was a simple act of human kindness, but for me, it was a profound moment of divine intervention. It was the first domino to fall in a cascade of events that would bring down the very people who had sought to destroy me. The police investigation began immediately. My sudden absence, the forced entry, and my weakened state from the cold were all immediate red flags. They found the heavy oak basement door locked from the outside with a thick, iron chain and a padlock, a damning piece of evidence that pointed directly to premeditated cruelty. They also found a single set of muddy boot prints on the snow-covered porch, leading away from the house, prints that matched the custom Timberland boots Sarah had been wearing the day before. The police, with their keen eyes for detail, soon discovered the intricate web of lies and deceit that Sarah had woven. The business venture was a front for a massive mortgage fraud scheme, and the sale of my house was meant to be the final, large-scale transaction to fund their criminal enterprise. They had planned to take my money and disappear, leaving me to die in the basement and David to face the legal consequences. But God's plan had been different. My sudden absence and Michael's call to 911 had triggered a massive police investigation, and the clues they found in the house and Sarah's belongings led them to her accomplices and the truth. David was distraught, ashamed, and devastated. When the police questioned him, he crumbled. He confessed everything: Sarah's insatiable greed, her meticulous planning, and his own passive, silent complicity. He revealed how she had convinced him that the house was a burden on me, that I was too old to manage it, and that selling it was for my own good. He had been a willing pawn in her game, blinded by her force of personality and his own desire to live a life of comfort and luxury. But he had not been a co-conspirator in the attempted murder. He truly believed they were going away for a few days, and that I would be found by a neighbor or friend. His tearful confession, a testament to his broken spirit, was a sobering and painful moment for all of us. He was a man who had lost his way, and now he was faced with the ultimate consequences of his actions. He had allowed his wife to turn him into a man he was not, and he had allowed his greed to blind him to his mother's pain. It was a heartbreaking sight to see the boy I had raised with such love now so broken and lost. The foreclosure was the final, devastating nail in their coffin. Unbeknownst to me, Sarah had taken a second mortgage on the house with Bank of America without our knowledge, a desperate attempt to get her hands on money before my supposed death. But because she had used forged documents and because she had no legal right to the home, the bank declared the loan fraudulent and seized the property, a process that was entirely separate from the criminal investigation. The bank moved with stunning swiftness, a cold, unfeeling machine of legal consequences. The fraudulent loan not only ruined their credit, but it also plunged them into a debt so deep they would never be able to climb out of it. They were not only facing felony charges for attempted murder, elder abuse, and a multitude of financial fraud counts, but they were also facing the complete and total loss of their home, their Mercedes, their money, and their dignity. It was a harsh and brutal form of justice, but it was a justice that had been divinely ordained. They had lost everything they had ever owned, and they were left with nothing but their shame and the prospect of a long prison sentence. It was a humbling and painful lesson for them, but it was a lesson they had to learn. After the arrests, I was faced with a difficult and profound choice. My son David had been a victim of his wife's manipulation, but he had also been a willing participant in my suffering. He had stood by, a silent accomplice, allowing his greed to blind him to his mother's pain. I could have turned my back on him, let him face the full, unyielding weight of the legal system alone. But a mother's love, I have found, is a profound and forgiving thing. a force that transcends even the deepest betrayal. When he was released on bail, broken and with no place to go, he came to my hospital room. He didn't try to defend himself or minimize his role. He simply knelt at my bedside, tears streaming down his face, and begged for my forgiveness. "I was so foolish, Mom," he sobbed. "I let her poison my mind. I'm so sorry. I am so sorry." In that moment, I knew I had to make a choice, not just for him, but for my own soul. I told him he had to make a choice. "You can continue down this dark path, David," I said, my voice gentle but firm. "You can blame your wife, blame the circumstances, and live with the bitterness and regret. Or you can choose a different one. A path of repentance, of service, and of rebuilding not just your life, but your soul." He chose the latter. His journey was not easy. He began working for the Salvation Army, a homeless shelter just a few miles from our home. He dedicated his life to serving others, to atoning for the mistakes of his past. He started with the most menial of tasks, cleaning floors and washing dishes, never complaining, never asking for special treatment. He served with a humility I had never seen in him. And in the faces of the people he helped, he began to see his own reflection. He saw the brokenness, the desperation, and the need for a second chance. He had a long road ahead of him, a mountain of debt and a shattered reputation, but he was finally on the right path. I, in turn, began my own journey of forgiveness. It was not a single moment, but a profound and deliberate act that I had to recommit to every day. It was about choosing to release the poison of bitterness from my own heart. Not because their actions deserved it, but because my soul yearned for peace. The house, once a symbol of my pain and betrayal, was now a symbol of my resilience and a testament to my survival. I reclaimed it, not just physically but spiritually. Every room, once a haunting reminder of a life almost lost, was now a sanctuary of new beginnings. I filled the home with love, with laughter, and with a profound sense of gratitude. I held a large fundraising event for the homeless shelter where David worked, and in doing so, I not only helped those in need but also helped to rebuild the shattered fragments of my own family. My faith is now stronger than ever, a quiet, unwavering force that guides every step of my journey. The lessons I learned were not about earthly riches, but about the profound and transformative power of God's love and grace. I am a new woman. The house, once a symbol of my pain, is now a symbol of my resilience. I am at peace, and I am grateful. I know that God has a plan for all of us, and that even in the face of the greatest betrayal, a miracle is waiting to unfold. As for Sarah, she refused to take responsibility. She blamed David, me, and even the bank for her downfall. Her pride and unrepentant greed led to a harsher sentence, a justice that was cold and final, with no path to redemption. She remains in prison, her life a hollow, bitter shell of what she'd planned, stripped of everything she had sought to steal. It was a powerful, poetic justice that showed a clear contrast between a path of repentance and a path of self-destruction. This is a story about the insidious nature of greed, the profound depths of betrayal, and the miraculous, transformative power of faith and forgiveness. It's a testament to the fact that even when those closest to us stray into darkness, a mother's love, guided by divine grace, can illuminate a path to redemption. My son's wife's attempt to harm me for earthly riches led to her ultimate destruction, but it also became the catalyst for her reckoning and perhaps her ultimate salvation. My journey from an intended victim to an instrument of divine justice taught me that true wealth lies not in material possessions, but in the unwavering strength of one's spirit and the boundless capacity for compassion. I had to choose forgiveness, not because their actions deserved it, but because my own soul yearned for peace. In offering them a chance at redemption, I found a freedom far greater than any inheritance could buy. Their arduous journey back from the precipice of despair, guided by the difficult path of humility and service, is a testament to God's unending mercy and the possibility of a second chance. And for that, I am eternally grateful. If this message resonated with you, I pray you'll do a few things for me. Please follow our page so you don't miss our next true story. Give this video a like to help us spread this message of hope. Leave a comment below and share your thoughts on the power of forgiveness and second chances. Your support helps us reach more people who are going through their own trials, and seeking their own path to redemption. Thank you, and may God bless you.